ugly oysters. This video is one of a series of discussions based on Jordan Peterson's book, Beyond Order. Today, we identify the main themes of Chapter 1 and make an effort to reduce, analyze, and apply his first chapter. I have posted timestamps below if you wish to locate anything specific, and I do hope you enjoy the view while considering these important ideas for our lives.
Hi,
Hello,
how are you today?
another fine day.
So, recently we're reading this Peterson's new book, Beyond
Yeah.
Order, right?
Yeah,
And the first chapter, it's, to me, oh my God, it's so difficult. And somehow I'm just even wondering if I get his point. And so how do you think about this? And if it's okay, do you mind summarize the first chapter for me?
yeah. So, this first chapter of Peterson's, I think it's a more complicated chapter than I guess. I mean, I haven't read the rest of the book, but it just seems like this first rule is laying the ground for the rest of the book. And it seems like he's going pretty deep on this.
Yeah, seems very theoretic.
Very theoretical.
Yeah.
And the thing is, coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, at the same time as we were reading this chapter, I was listening to Peterson in some debates at UBC with another popular guy. I don't know his name. I don't know why he's popular, but there's another guy who he's talking with. And they were talking about these same topics. And in that debate, they were going even deeper. I mean, there were parts where I couldn't follow it. It just got too theoretical, too many words that I didn't know the meaning of, and so on,
Yes.
And
So it's recently or it's before?
they had these debates, I think, in 2018.
3 years ago.
Yeah. And,
So that means he always stuck on this and go research or go deep for this, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think these books are the result of his lifelong effort of study. It's not just he picks a topic and he writes it. This is everything to him.
I see.
This is his life. And because he needed to solve these issues for himself. He will say...
Yeah, I think so. Basically, this is the book of his philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's kind of, actually, it's kind of a map or a conclusion of his own thinking of the world. How gonna he live in this world?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's why I feel very connected with it, though it's difficult. Because I kind of see someone, give you something that he digged so deep and hard, It's kind of like a very cherished a pearl from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's sharing his mind, but actually he's
And
sharing
thinking.
his heart as well.
Yeah, I think.
Because he really cares about this.
Yeah,
and he
right.
thinks that this can benefit people the way it benefited him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's a teacher. He's a professor. He's been teaching for, 25 years or something like that. This is his life. He wants to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you mind to give us a summary of the first chapter?
Yeah, so I think the simple summary in a sentence. The fool is the hero.
Yes.
So
what is this a fool mean here?
Yeah.
I saw
So
this the picture, right?
right. So at the beginning of the chapter, there's the picture that comes from tarot cards. Tarot cards are a way of telling your fortune for people who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You flip different cards, and then based on the kinds of cards that come out, you will predict a different fortune. There is actually an educational theorist
Mm-hmm.
who has built her whole theory
Mm.
based on the tarot card deck.
Mm-hmm.
And without getting into her theory, she says that the tarot card points to archetypes. And archetypes are something that comes from Carl Jung's theories.
Mm-hmm.
An archetype is basically an idea we have in ourselves of what a thing should be. Like every child has an archetype of what a mother should be.
Mm-hmm.
Every child has an archetype of what a father should be. Nobody taught them that.
Mm-hmm.
They already have that internalized. It's a deep structure.
I see.
So the fool is an archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Fool as hero.
Mm-hmm.
When that card turns and you see the fool, there's some heroic quality that's being called out in the person.
Mm-hmm.
So why a hero?
Yeah.
Because you look at the card, and if a person has the book, you see the image. There's the fool there. It's a young man.
Mm-hmm.
Seems well dressed. He's got walking boots.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a nice jacket. He's gazing into the sky,
Mm-hmm.
Probably thinking sublime thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
heavenly thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dog beside him playing with the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems so carefree.
Mm-hmm.
And the fool he's walking on the edge of a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got one foot on the stone
Mm-hmm.
and one foot in the air. It looks like he's going to walk off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kind of dual message here.
Mm-hmm.
And Peterson spends the chapter
Mm-hmm.
explaining that dual message
Oh, yeah.
of what is the fool and how is the fool
Mm-hmm.
also the hero at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fool looks like he's headed for disaster. So, how does he go about explaining that? Well, it seems that Peterson is trying to answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
how do we stay sane,
Mm-hmm.
not insane, but stay sane, and achieve personal success, social harmony, and long-term stability?
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks the way to do that is to be the fool. So he begins by talking about early in the 20th century when Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung entered the scene with psychological insights about human living.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if you follow Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, you would think that a person can be an integrated person simply by settling your inner world.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is sort that out and you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But Peterson says it's more than that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to balance that inner world
Mm-hmm.
with social rule keeping.
Mm-hmm.
And so he defends the value of social rule keeping.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes through a whole argument, quite a detailed argument, where that's where he gets complicated. Even in this chapter, he goes into a detailed argument about saying that this need to keep social rules, it's as deep as cellular biology. Like it has developed, it's not an abstract set of concepts that have been developed from above. It's very concrete. It's been developed on the ground. It's even monkeys know that social rule keeping is important.
Oh, I didn't see this point.
Mm.
Okay. So you think it's like Peterson said it's from genetic. It's not from the social education, social, like a cultural teaching?
Well, social cultural teaching could possibly be rooted in genetics, but as soon as you formalize it into a principle 1 is this, principle 2 is this, you need to follow that. That's more abstract. That's more top-down kind of rule keeping. But the rule keeping that holds society together almost doesn't need that abstract formulation. It comes about through the jostling among equals. That you do this, we're not going to like you. Basically. And it's not just monkeys, it's even lower down on the evolutionary scale. He thinks these social rules are embedded in our however many million years of history as a life on the planet. It's that deep.
So it's kind of like a biology way. It's not social way.
It is a biology way. That's what he said in these.
It's like what he said about robust before.
It's
all proved that it's more than social education way. Because social education can change. Like a cultural rule, you can change. But this, he thinks you can never change, right?
Right. It's in our biology.
Like we
to
follow
keep social
some
rules.
hierarchy or something.
Yep. Even the existence of hierarchies is biological.
I see. Okay.
And he's got his famous lobster argument where he basically shows that even lobsters have a hierarchy, or the pecking order of chickens or whatever,
Okay.
So he defends the value of social rule keeping. He thinks it's very important that people recognize the inheritance that they've been given.
Like if someone gonna fight with it, it's kind of like they fight with themselves. Like they fight with the genetic.
Yeah.
Which will never get success.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I didn't get this. Thank you.
Yeah. And he would call that the ordered world.
Yes.
So there's another basic principle that he's laying down, and it started in his other book, the first book, which was 12 Rules for Life. I can't remember the title. I don't know if it's on the jacket here. I think the first book was called 12 Rules for Life. This one is called Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. In the first book, which has a white cover, he's arguing for social order. And in that book, he also says that there are two principal dynamics in life, principal frames for understanding life. One is order and one is chaos. And he uses this concept all through his talking. And in his first book, he says that you need to stand on this duality between order and chaos in order to be balanced. You have to have one foot firmly planted in order and security, and the other foot in chaos, possibility, growth, adventure. And he says, when you are in a situation where you find that life is suddenly gripping and meaningful, when time passes so quickly and you're so absorbed in what you're doing, then you know you're right on the edge of order and chaos. And that's the most productive place to be as a human.
What do you mean when you go like a deep, or you do something you...
When you're so absorbed in whatever you're doing that time passes so quick.
Yeah. Why at that time you are on the edge?
I'm not sure, but I know that there's another book written by another author called... I can't remember the title just now. But it also talks about the peak psychological state is when you're in that place of timelessness where you could be so absorbed in something that hours will pass and you don't even notice.
I see.
But I don't know what the term is for that. So I think there is a kind of psychological school of thought that this is the ultimate experience of living. Okay. So anyway, that's Peterson. He says you got to be in order and you got to be in chaos. And in this chapter, that order is when you're being aligned with the social order. Okay. But then he says, we learn these rules in many different places. But the interesting thing about the rule keeping is that if you completely follow the rules, you're also not doing well. If you're a total conformist, that's not what is meant by keeping the rules. There's a rule that's even deeper than keeping the rules. And it's very difficult to convey. So he uses some examples. I'll use two of them. One of the examples he uses is from Harry Potter. And most people have seen Harry Potter, so they can relate to this. And then he uses another rule from the Bible, or another example from the Bible, and I believe the Bible is the most read book in the world, so that also is a good reference point to be able to draw these examples. So with Harry Potter, you have these characters, these kids who are going to school. They're going to the school of wizardry, and they are very obedient. That's partly why they're able to go to the school. They get rewarded for their obedience. There's points that go to each house for their being able to impress the teachers and so on. But these characters also break the rules. And it seems when they break the rules, they also get rewarded. So there's this paradoxical condition of rule keeping and rule breaking that seems to exist, and they are the heroes. And Peterson asks the question, how are we to understand this? And so he says on page 42 of his book, he says the Harry Potter series does not point to drone-like subservience to the social order. He says we can't be slaves to the social order. This is not the highest moral virtue. What is more important than obedience is something like follow the rules, except when doing so undermines the purpose of those rules.
It's just like there is a story, like say there is the Nazi soldier and used a gun to shoot people. So when the judge say you are saint and he defended himself, say I'm just getting the order to shoot these people, so I'm not saint. And the judge say, but you can like lift your gun like 1 inch ahead or 3 inches ahead. Then you're gonna not shoot people. You like listen to your order as a soldier, but you still like can lift your gun a little bit and not shoot at people, because that's beyond that order, like for human life. Is that similar?
So,
kind of the thing we can understand by this.
I mean, presumably, presumably the soldiers, the higher rule behind the rules is to respect human life.
Yeah. Because rule is basically rule is for goodness, to set up the rule.
Yeah. Yeah, and so if the rule is shoot this person, and you don't see how that is holding up the value of human life, then you should not shoot the person.
So at that time you need beyond the rule.
Yeah. Have to be able to break the rule.
Okay. So also before the book forget the name the lightness and the happiness about that book.
Oh, Milan Kundera,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
incredible lightness of being, or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So in this book, you see, there is described two parts. One part is the kind of the old institution way, and there is the new ways, the revolutionary people, right? They are trying to overthrow the old and build the new thing. But you see, I think his name is Thomas.
Yeah.
Thomas, at that time, he refused to go with the old regime. So he don't want to sign on the paper, declare something what they want. But when the new revolutionary guy come for him, want to take him join their rule, their party, he also refused. Why? Because he also think they are using the same thing. They are using the same rule to control people, just on the different direction. But the essential is the same. Because you can't use the arbitrary, absolutely rightness, this kind of a paradigm, to rule people. He didn't see any significance change by the revolutionary guys throw away the old institution. Because the spirit is the same. The spirit is all absolutely rule.
Yeah.
Absolutely authority.
Yeah.
So he refused.
Yeah.
I think this point is that this book also become a great book. It's not just a love story,
Yeah.
So here, Peterson gave the same thinking about this.
Yeah.
Am I understanding
Yeah,
right?
I think so. And that reminds me also, as a principal of school, I've been in the position of having to enforce rules at times. And I've often said to teachers, relationships are more important than the rules. As soon as we get the rules being more important than the relationships, something's gone backwards. Yeah. So that's when you need to break the rule. If the rule is offending against relationships. Yeah. Or with Milan Kundera, the book you're talking about, here it's about human dignity, sort of, against being contained under a regime. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's Harry Potter. And so he's just saying there are times where you have to risk breaking the rules, because that's actually the deeper rule keeping of social order. And then he did the story of Jesus, who, when he was a child of, I think, 12 years old, he was already very well trained in the traditions of his society. How do we know? Because at that age, he was able to debate and argue and discuss with the teachers of the law at the temple. And the teachers of the law, or the doctors, were astonished at Jesus' understanding and his answers. So he knew. Jesus had a deep understanding of the culture and what was expected of him. And then his parents, at that time, when Jesus was in the temple, they were just visiting that city, Jerusalem, but his parents were going back home. They left. In fact, they were a day's journey gone before they realized that their son, Jesus, wasn't with them. And that was not right. Jesus should be following his parents, the authorities in his life, but he denied them. And then when they came back and asked them, why have you dealt this way with us? Why are you disobeying us, basically? We've been so worried. We've been sorrowing. And he says to them, why were you looking for me? Don't you know I'm supposed to be doing my father's business? So this 12-year-old boy is...
he is 12 at that time.
Yeah, I think so. This is my understanding. It says in the verse, 12 years old. He's already challenging his parents and saying, I have a higher authority than just you. And they couldn't understand what's his meaning, because they're so absorbed in their own cultural expectation. They can't conceive that Jesus is actually following a higher principle, a higher value, obeying God, basically. And so, but then...
So that actually just to say you should not be rigid following the rule. Otherwise, you become the robot. Just you need to learn how to make it more flowing or floating or somehow.
Yeah, well, it's one level of understanding to know and obey the social rules. It's another level of understanding to know when not to obey the social rules. And to know what the true value of those...
In the same times, like people or human being, like they just increasing their professional judgment.
Right.
When they met difficult or complex situation.
Right. Yeah, it's...
So like basic, you have a rule.
Yeah.
But when the rule not fit or can't apply exactly at that time, need your professional judgment.
Well, see, this is the word I like, judgment. Judgment is making decision in the absence of rules. It's when you're at that place where you can't use the rules as a basis for judgment. In fact, you might even have to fight against the rules. And judgment is something that a person needs to practice. It's between the ordered world and the chaotic world. It's like the quote I read from Peterson's earlier book, just when we were talking earlier, that when you have one foot, when time seems to be passing and you have this... Let's just look and see what it says again. Oh, maybe I lost the page. When life reveals itself as intense, gripping, and meaningful, then you know you're straddling those two worlds of chaos and order. I think that's also where you are having to make judgments. Because you're not just in the ordered world, and you're not just in the chaos world.
So as to this judgment, I remind of Mother Teresa said about another issue, about like a faith. Like she prayed to God to say, please give me the courage to do the thing I should do. But also, like, please give me the wisdom, or please give me the insight to know when I should stop.
Yeah.
And then she also prayed to God to say, God, please give me the wisdom to know which is which.
Yeah.
Kind of like so you see, like this kind of a paradox, or this kind of a professional judgment, you need it in every area of life.
Yes.
So it's all about balancing, actually.
Yes.
So, but you see, like, as we say, balance. So, kind of like all the Chinese people will know balance is important. Because we start from very little. It's kind of have the Confucian talking, say, balance is the only way. Like, balance is the keep in the middle is the only way, or keep in the middle is the best way, or whatever. But you see, like, I think everyone knows it. But Peterson need to go so deep to demonstrate it. So what do you think what's the significance there?
You think everyone knows it? I mean,
in my society.
In your society.
People all seems know it.
In your society, you have the yin and yang concept, right?
Yeah.
It's that dual black and white.
Yeah,
it's like Peterson's books, black and white.
You can't be like a pure black.
Yeah.
You can't be pure white. You should have contained the black inside the white, contained the white inside the black. So it's the life. Like you can't always push ahead and say, I'm gonna do it, you know? Hit the wall, I still do it, you know? But you also can't say, I just can't do it, I give it up. But, like Mother Teresa's paradox.
But everything I hear from you about your culture is how everything is so ordered and organized and rationalized. I don't see people valuing chaos or possibility or adventure.
But this you need to separate to see our society. It's kind of like what I'm talking now. It's kind of from the traditional value,
the traditional
teaching, traditional thinking, and like just Peterson said, it's embedded from our blood.
Yeah,
it's kind of this kind of a teaching always. But now we are in the communist power. It's kind of we are a communist society, so we have this communist spirit idea. Like a dominant the culture, the society. So it's different. We should separate this to see.
Well, so all I want to know is, you say this is like Chinese culture. I mean, do people feel the traditional way inside themselves, or are they more possessed by the rational spirit now?
I think, let's say this way, it's kind of more like this middle way, or this yin and yang way. It's kind of in our blood, but it's maybe now like maybe pressed more deeply, and you even don't see it. But it's still there, Basically, like if you push it to the edge, push to the corner, people still react as this way. But I mean, in the surface world, superficial living kind of style, people just seems more rational. That's true. Because it's kind of by the education. We copied our education system. We copied the Soviet Union. It's kind of a more rational way, and it's also like a more communist way, So I think it's different. Recently, some people go back to the traditional teaching. They even set up the private school for their own kids, not school, just the homeschooling, But recently, I also heard it was said that's illegal and they should not do it. They should put their kids to school or something. But I mean, people already notice the value of the traditional culture, so they try to educate their kids at home. They have this kind of temptation try for maybe 20 years.
I see. Okay, so I wonder if we draw it back to the Peterson chapter.
Sure.
So what Peterson is saying, you put one foot on order, one foot on social order, and the other foot on chaos. And chaos, by the way, is a term that sounds negative. Chaos.
Yeah.
But when he says chaos in his first book, he calls chaos that place of possibility, growth, adventure. So And for me,
like more like a random place.
Yeah.
Not ordered place.
Yeah, not predictable.
Yeah. Just don't think it's a chaos as the usual meaning.
Yeah.
Like people think chaos is mass.
Yeah.
But I think it's not mass. It's just randomly. It's not following your order.
Yeah.
It's like beyond you. You can't control.
No.
But maybe even in chaos there is still pattern there. There's still some rule we haven't discovered.
Well, order always comes out of chaos. This I know from
yes.
Oh, for some reason I can't think very clearly. But anyway, even last night I again was listening to the debates, and Peterson revealed his political views according to this concept.
I see.
The conservatives are on the ordered side. The liberals are on the chaos side. Conservatives have boundaries. Liberals have no boundaries. And so when you think of things like the immigration issue in the United States, the order side is to have boundaries and to protect it. And the liberal side is to have no boundaries and to have openness and welcomeness, and there's value to both. But anyway, that's a political way of understanding it. For me, I always think of chaos as adventure. This is why adventure to me is a big theme. I will use it in teaching. I try to get my students to understand learning as adventure. But so I guess that betrays my liberal thinking. So, just to get back to the point where the summary of the chapter, the fool is the hero. How is he heroic? He's got one foot on the ground and he's got one foot in the air. He's straddling those two worlds, and you never quite know if he's going to fall off the cliff or not, because he's right on the edge between those two worlds, and his eyes are lifted upward. He's a hopeful person. So there's always possibility. As much possibility for good as there is for bad. Like it's that life of risk. And that's what he's basically saying here for the first rule. So in his more complicated way, the chapter title is "Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement." Denigrate means look down upon or put down. He didn't say don't look down upon. He said don't do it carelessly. Understand what it is that you may be putting down when you do so. If you're Harry Potter and you're going to break the rules, be aware of what's going to happen. You know, you may be at risk of losing your seat at the school. And so this is where I want to just point out where I kind of disagree with him a little bit. Because this is where I think Peterson betrays his conservative leanings. He says, if you refuse to realize the importance of the rules you are breaking, and just act out of your own self-centered convenience, then you're going to be damned and you should be damned. This carelessness is going to undo you and anyone around you. But then on the next page, he says, actually, you should allow a certain amount of ruleness in your life. You should welcome it. But you should also allow a certain amount of creativity and rebellion. So on one hand, he's saying, if you're too careless, you should be damned. On the other hand, he says, you should allow a certain amount of rebellion and basically carelessness, about the rules. So this is where I think he's just a little bit inconsistent, and that's because he frankly prefers rule keeping.
It's also maybe because you can't be arbitrary. Like, you can't 100% to insist on this or how to say, protest another. That's because like chaos and rules all together, but somehow you can't tell how much. Like
Well,
you can't be absolutely
yeah,
know what it is.
yeah.
So that means he's not sure.
Yeah.
But I think that's this chapter is not sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also being true to himself because he admits earlier in the chapter that all of this is complicated, and one thing is because biologically we will have a tendency toward more rule keeping or more rule breaking. It's kind of in our genetics.
Yeah.
So we automatically have a bias to being more conservative or more liberal.
I see.
And so he's just acting out of his bias when he says you should be judged, you know. And that's what you can expect from the rule keepers. If you break the rules,
I see.
they're going to want to judge you.
Yeah,
But
okay.
actually, if our whole society is going to be balanced, we should allow a little bit of this rebellion in people and just recognize it's okay. And we also should be permitting some of these people who want to really stick with the rules, like just not get so unsettled by the opposite view. Actually, we should be able to live in both worlds.
Yeah, right.
In my own life, I have tried very hard to learn the rule keeper's way.
I see.
I'm done with that now.
That means you follow the rule or you break the rule. You don't follow the rule.
My tendency is I don't care about the rules. I just don't think the rules are that important. But that doesn't...
But you're gonna damned, like what he said.
I know. That happens to me sometimes.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. You're gonna be damned. You're gonna be punished. You're gonna be... whatever, yeah, teach a lesson.
Yeah, sometimes people teach me lessons.
Yeah, right.
But the thing is, I live in that chaos world. I live in that world of adventure. I think the Christian life is a lot of it. It's the life of faith. You know, one of the songs I grew up with as a child is, "This world is not my home, I'm just a passing through." If heaven wasn't my home, then what would I do?
I see.
For me, I'm looking to that heavenly kingdom, just like Abraham, when he was called to leave his family, leave his country, and go to a place I will show you. Abraham didn't know where he was going. This is the life of adventure. This is the life of chaos. But this is also the life where you're making the rules as you go. That's how I am. Make the rules as I go. But I'm better equipped now that I understand what these rule maker thinkers are like.
Yeah, right. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. I think if we are moving to a globalized society, we're moving to a time where we have to reassess all the rules. We can't just be based in our own culture. And this is another reason why I disagree with Peterson, because there was a point somewhere in his chapter where he talked about how you need to rely on or depend on or...
Because he's basically conservative.
Yeah, he's basically conservative. He's basically saying go back to your culture.
Yeah.
And if you don't go back to your culture, then you're wrong. But if everyone does that, how are we supposed to get along with each other? You know, you have to move beyond your own confinement of rules to see something deeper, something more essential. You have to go to that rule behind the rules to get along with the rest of humanity.
I think because he actually using the standard as the least destroy way. Because if you like you tear down all of the past, you tear down all of the institutions, and then the cost will be higher.
Yeah.
Like you destroy more, and you actually you risk more.
Yeah.
And maybe after you destroy, you can't build.
Yeah.
Then you would feel painful more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he just choose a more conservative, the least destroy way to go for it.
Yeah.
And this is the idealism for him.
Yeah.
But somehow the society don't follow that idealism at all. Like in China, we happened like for this throw over the federal and throw over the whatever already built up by communists themselves. Like so, then we have the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
So it's always like a huge throw away, huge destroy. Want to build new.
Yeah.
The thing is just that we can't build new right away. So then it seems disaster.
Yeah.
But what if you build out?
Yeah.
Like a Soviet Union at that time, they kind of built up a new society, brand new.
Yeah.
It's really attractive too.
Yeah.
So I think the thing is just how you can bear it.
Yeah.
For the level of destroy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Different people have different level.
Yeah.
For the liberals, they may endure chaos more, so they want to destroy more and build more new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for the conservative, they think, oh my God.
Yeah.
Some conservative even don't want to change at all.
Yeah.
So that's the two strands struggling.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to know that we have these dual impulses inside each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us might be more conservative, some of us might be more liberal, but we have little bits of both.
Mm-hmm.
And that society is also this way. You can characterize some people as being liberals, some people as being conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never expect that frame of understanding the world will ever change.
Mm-hmm.
It's as deep as our brain structure. Left brain, right brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's there.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you see it, then I think you can manage it better. If you're conservative, you'll manage yourself better, knowing that there's a need for liberalism, or you could say rule-keeping or chaos. Order. There's a need for order. There's a need for chaos. If you're on that liberal side, you can recognize that there is a need for order.
Yeah, right. It's kind of make more balanced.
Yeah.
So I think...
then you can make the wise decisions.
Yeah.
Then you're forced into wisdom, not just adherence to some political philosophy.
Yeah, I think so to Peterson. Like he may, from his rational side, he used this rational leg to walk for so long, then felt there is an obstacle ahead of him, can reach the truth,
Yeah.
So maybe he just kind of stop and look back, look around, see he may lack of this unrational leg.
Yeah.
So he is trying to put that on or trying to make it longer for him to more balance to walking. So that's why I think he pay more attention on beyond order now.
Yeah.
Like before, he may still very trust his left brain leg.
I imagine he's probably encountered times in his life that were very disordered and chaotic and discovered there was goodness there.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Do you want to say something more?
About it, I don't know. I'm just speculating.
I think maybe about his health.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he almost close to the death's edge.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, he felt he's so vulnerable, can't control it, even with his so ordered mind.
Yeah.
I just think he just suddenly felt intimidated by lose controlling.
Well, when you see the video of him confessing that he might actually believe Christ, this is after his illness, and he's in tears. And he's almost at a loss for words to explain why it's become real to him. And I think it's an outflow of the experience of his encounter with chaos.
I think
chaos
so.
of illness.
Yeah. And use his order mind. He can't solve that chaos anymore.
Yeah.
He have to admit, that's it, God. I can't go a step forward anymore by myself.
Yeah.
So then I need you. And that is maybe somehow he faced the chaos at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does feel truly grateful, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
For his difficult life.
So that's his journey, like about his suffering, like it caused him finally be grateful for what he suffers.
Yeah.
So do you have like the same experience about this, or because I've heard you said a similar theory about this balance thing. You may use more about creative or science or whatever. You use other category, but I think it's very similar as what you.
Well, as you were talking, I was thinking about it a little bit. Because I stand on the chaos side. I stand more on the adventure side.
Yes.
But it hasn't always been so either, That's the interesting thing, too. Because I think I was raised in a very... My home... The theory of my upbringing was to have everything ordered and controlled.
Oh, yeah.
But,
so similar as Peterson, actually.
Yeah.
At the beginning point.
There's a right and a wrong, a good and a bad. And, there's a clear purpose for which you are to live. Get an education, get a job. Like, everything's all sort of laid out for you. But I never really followed that. And I did have a history all my life. I've moved again and again, every year and a half. So I'm always being put in a new environment. I mean, even now, the place I'm living now, I haven't even lived there for a year yet.
I see.
And new neighborhood, new everything. And for some people, this is truly a life of chaos. It's quite unpredictable. You don't know what's going to come next. And I've kind of gotten used to it. Like, I know part of me wants to be more ordered, part of me wants to have things more predictable. But on the other hand, as I reflect back on my life, I'm so grateful for all the adventure I've lived.
I see, yeah.
I've lived in this...
It's all the experience.
Yeah. Like, I always thought that the best way to get old is to have all kinds of stories in your mind to tell your children. The adventures you've had, places you've lived, people you've met, things that are just really outside of your normal day-to-day experience. And I have those. Yeah. They're all inside of me, you know. They're alive. But at the same time, I've been in places where, like when I was first a teacher in Canada, I was in a private school. And because it was a private school, in BC, we call it independent school. Because it's independent, you have a lot more liberty. But at that time, they were starting to take away some of those liberties. And we had our first school evaluation, I think, in 7 years. And I was a teacher there. And I was just so offended that 2 people could come into our school, walk around for a day and a half, and tell us whether we're doing our job properly or not. I thought, who the hell are they? How the heck are they supposed to know? But from a rational point of view, there are all these boxes, tick, 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 that you should be fulfilling to create the proper model of what an education should be for your social order. This is all about social order and rule keeping. And I just thought, I challenged them. After they gave the evaluation, I started questioning them, basically indicating that they're not right to make these judgments of us. And my colleagues who loved me, I know they loved me, they tried to quiet me, not talk so much. And the thing is, when I went to the United States to be a teacher, it was worse. And I just thought, what the heck? A principal comes in for 5 minutes and writes a review of what I'm doing as if he even knows what I'm trying to do. So I have quite a different frame of thinking. Every other teacher at the school thought this quite normal. This is what's expected. You're looking
I think
to your...
there's same thing in our country too.
Yeah, and I just think...
the teacher will be supervised by the supervisor.
Well, so, frankly, I thought I'm doing my job better than anyone else. Who are you to judge me? I didn't think they cared enough about teaching to make a judgment.
Maybe also it's in the order what Peterson mentioned.
Yeah.
It should be fit this order. Not rebel so much.
Yeah. Right. So then that's what it brought me to. Is I thought, am I insane? So there's the question of insane too. Sane or insane. Yeah. Peterson says, how can you be sane? And I thought, is it possible that all my colleagues are so wrong? All the universities in the United States teaching people about education are so wrong? Don't I have anything to learn from these people? So that's when I challenged myself. And I thought, I need to understand what they're thinking. And so I spent 10 years in a doctoral degree and 2 years in a master's degree, almost 3 years. All American, all in this kind of mechanical frame of understanding education. And I think I have a pretty good understanding of it, and I think I have a sense of the value of it, and I think I've learned some things from it. But now I'm ready to go back into my chaos base.
Okay, so you actually just opposite like Peterson, you go reach for the order side.
Yeah.
And then now still back to your base of your chaos side. Peterson maybe go reach for the chaos side, and now he back to his order side.
I frankly think there's way too many scientists and pseudo-scientists, fake scientists in education, and way too few artists.
I see.
Education should at least be 50% art. And we're treating it like it's almost... It's very hard to find someone who treats education as an art anymore. But I think 40 years ago you would have found lots of people who treated education as an art.
I see. Yeah.
And it's just been kind of over-dominated by this cognitive rationalist frame.
Right.
Like everything
is... also I think education should be based on more art side. It would be more creative and for the kids, because we are human beings. We're not just an object.
Well, I think education is a human institution. It's human first, institution second. So, frankly, my real belief is it should be artistic first before it's scientific.
This I agree with you. But after all, all the society we build up as a human, it also should be human first.
Yeah,
whatever
frankly
should be laggard of. So you see, opposite of Peterson, Peterson interviewed a guy named Ian, kind of a scientist. Ian. Kind of a scientist in UK. He said he think the creative side should be the master. Using his words, he said the right brain should be the master. The left brain should be the follower. Then, because the right brain, go for the meaning, go for the structure, the bigger meaning, life. And the left brain is doing the correct thing, make it very detailed, do it right, fit the order. So this should be the servant. He didn't think it should be equal. He said right one should be the leader, then it's perfect. But Peterson think it should be like equal, or even in Peterson's equal, he still actually think left brain should be the master. Then we plus some creativity, So I think that's the difference between them.
This is where I'm gonna contradict myself,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's kind of on the edge of my own understanding right now as we speak.
Yes.
Because I also think it should be in the middle.
Yeah.
I just said there should be more artists because it's a human institution. But now I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to say should be in the middle. Because there has to be that decider between order and chaos. There has to be that decider between logic and creativity. And that's human. That's what human is. It's human to want to organize things. It's human to want to disorganize things. But I still think there's not enough artists. So somehow, to me, the truest creativity is not even on the artist side. It's not on the liberal or the chaos side. The true artist is the one who straddles the middle between order and chaos, not the one who's just in chaos.
I see. But I more agree with the Ian guy. I think the right brain should be the master.
Well, so here's another argument in favor of that. Like I'm really tempted to also agree with you. I feel like I'm not quite resolving this issue in my mind. But
because what I see is, of course, like China, now, like the left brain is the master. So the right brain is the servant, and it causes lots psychology problem. It's because you kind of use the container, the rational container, contained like vivid, aliving people, They can't like freely dancing. They need dancing in a chain. They need dancing in a form. And so that's really, really dehumanized it. But actually, like when you make the right brain human, humanity as the master and all the rational thing as the follower, I think then people can dancing freely, but still have the way to figure out how to support them live better. For example, like technology or something that need left brain more, right?
Well, so here's where you get to kind of social theory, and part of my research in educational leadership was to dig down into these social theorists. And there's a guy called Weber. Weber. I don't know his first name.
Weibo.
Yeah.
What?
And he articulated the idea that there is the life world and there is the system.
Yeah, right.
And the life world is where all our values and
so the right brain in charge of that area.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But in order to support that life world,
you need a system.
Material problems need to be solved.
Yeah, right.
Material problems having to do with our health and our security and so on. So you build a system to protect that life world. The system is there to serve the life world. And so it's actually a product of the life world. But the problem with the system is that once you build the system, it starts to gain its own momentum, independent of the life world. And it's like this kind of power struggle starts to take place between the life world and the system that it produced. And then the life world starts becoming so dominant that it begins... the system becomes so dominant that it begins to eat up the life world.
Yeah, right.
And then it's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's when I would agree with that Ian what's his name?
McGilchrist?
McGilchrist. Ian McGilchrist says the artist should be the leader.
Not artist. He said right brain.
The right brain. If that's the life world part of the brain, then I would agree with him. But somehow I think it's more about the right brain and the left brain working together. There's another theorist, a British theorist, who's a lot more modern, and I can't recall his name now. I'll put it in the notes below the video later. But he said the modern world reshapes our life world. Doesn't destroy it. It changes it. And we just need to adapt to that new frame, that new system to maintain our life world. Things that at one time may be intruded on our life world become absorbed in it and become a part of it. So to me, that would be left brain mingling with right brain mingling with left brain. It's all those synapses and pathways that are built from one hemisphere of the brain to the other hemisphere. I still think I can't agree with McGilchrist. I had that binary in my mind for a long time. Life world system. Life world should direct everything. But somehow, and this has only been happening recently, I agree with Peterson. It needs to be balanced. The life is in the middle of those two things, not on one side or the other.
Okay. To me, I think the life more on the right brain.
But who decided that?
Me.
Did your right brain decide that the right brain should be dominant, or your left brain decide that the right brain should be dominant?
That's a good question. I got to a point now. So you mean there is another upper high?
Yes.
There.
That's where wisdom is.
It's just
That's
like God.
That's the decider in you.
It's like God, the conscious in yourself.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Even to be able to make the judgment that there's too much left brain going on. Does that judge also say sometimes there's too much right brain? Then that judge is the one that needs to be kept alive. Not the right brain or the left brain. The decider between the two is where wisdom is.
Oh, so then I think Peterson lack of that point. If he can put in this point, if you just said, then it's the perfect chapter 1.
But I think he's making that point.
Oh, I see.
I think this is why I like him. I believe this, actually. And to have someone articulate it so well, even though he's a conservative, even though he loves his, left brain, his ordered world so much, he still is willing to
embrace the truth.
Yeah, both sides.
Yeah, even he may have difficulty to embrace it.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think he's against the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, I think so. They misunderstand.
him.
Yeah, and so let's see if Peterson finally we got this this conscious God, this thing, the top one.
Sure.
Later.
Sure.
And I really love this idea about this master of two, left and right.
Yeah.
This should be more true.
I think this is fundamental. I think if you're gonna understand life, you have to know this. You have to. It's essential. It's the starting point. And so I do think the yin and yang is a fundamental truth that has been known for a long time.
I see.
And it's just we lose our way. Sometimes we just go so far on the white or so far on the black or whatever.
I see.
Yeah, this is human nature.
Wow, I'm so happy you can have this point.
Okay.
And thank you for today.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good talk. That's it for today. Come back and check out some of our other videos. Please put your comments below, hit like and subscribe with notifications if you wish to join in conversations with us on other topics.